Welcome, Marco. Glad to see you. Grace.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the meeting has started.
Bailey. Calling the meeting to order.
Order.
Oh, Tony!
I don't see
Tony! I don't know.
Hold up.
All right.
I heard it. Where's Tony?
I don't see him.
Somebody was imitating him.
It was
A
Ed.
couple of us were.
Oh, that
Oh,
was good, Ed.
We'll be connecting. He has a guest, and he said they were going to sit in and listen. So,
Okay, wonderful.
So I want to say one more thing. Can I?
Yes, please.
Well, I was going to say I met Marco online. Basically, I saw some work he did. It turns out that the photo that interested me was one made in what's the name of that? Guadalupe, and it was of the Royal Theater there, and a lot of us made the same type of photo, and so I figured, well, either he was passing through or he lives in the area, so I sent him an email, and invited him to. First of all, I wanted to find out if he lived in the area. Then I invited him to the to the club and to the program meetings and the competition meetings.
Awesome.
That's how I know him.
I think that makes you a membership recruitment director.
Well, it's gone 7:05.
I'm sorry.
Well, yeah. Anyway, never mind.
hello, Tony.
Hi.
And Tony's our British contingency, so we've got Italians and Brits here.
Yeah. Yeah, the Italians and the Brits.
There
Tony
isn't
though
much
has-
that I have to introduce club business at this point. So other than to say that we will have a program meeting the first Wednesday of September, and we will have more of a club meeting at that point. Before I introduce our judge, is there anybody else that has any urgent comments or things we need to add?
Yeah, I do. Ellen is probably not on, but he and I collaborated for this next program meeting. Is you have between now, if you haven't started yet, on the scavenger hunt, with the idea of doing as many as you can of the scavenger items, either from old photographs or new photographs, and submit those to Greg before our program meeting starts. I suggested the Sunday before, just like we do competition. And then more details are in the galleon. So please remember the scavenger hunt.
I'll try.
Yes. I've already been looking through all my photos to try and find things to fit in those categories. It's kind of fun. You look at all your old photos for that. So I think that Wednesday meeting will be a lot of interesting photos. I hope you all will join. Hi, Frank.
Hello.
I'm trying to take new photos for this.
You're trying to take what?
New photos for the
New
scavenger.
photos.
Good.
Yeah.
I am too, Rosie, but
Yeah,
some of them are challenging.
they are. Can we do 2 in 1, Penny? Like if it fits 2 categories, can we submit it for 2?
There's no rules, so go ahead
Okay.
if you want to.
All right.
Rules.
I think they're going to be,
Well-
mine aren't going to be very hard.
I hope the
Petition
background
ready.
doesn't offend anybody.
Your nude photos?
That's a lovely background, Tony.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's the Medusa.
Okay.
What is it?
So, folks, I want to introduce our judge for tonight, Theresa Jackson. She is an instructor, obviously photographer, digital artist, She is an Adobe community professional, an Adobe educational leader, and she also has runs her own design business called Orchard View Color. She is judged for the San Diego Fair and International Photo Competition. Is that right, Teresa? Did I say
That's
that
what they
right?
call it. Yeah.
And we also mentioned that she has won 2 photo.
Sorry. Okay.
And so she has many accolades and a lot of experience judging. And so hopefully we'll get some interesting feedback and learn some things from you tonight, Teresa.
Cheryl, one thing, you were breaking up there a little bit when you were talking about her background, about some of her winnings. Would you repeat that?
She won 2 Photoshop Guru Awards from Photoshop World in the artistic category.
Okay.
Okay. Very good.
Can I add something that I'm really excited about?
Of course.
Is there more?
There's always
Well,
more.
I've been recording courses for LinkedIn Learning, which used to be lynda.com, for 3 years now, I think. And I just had my biggest course published today, and I'm so excited about it. It's a Lightroom Classic course. It's a really deep Lightroom Classic course. It's almost 4 hours long. It starts from the very beginning of understanding what a catalog is and creating a catalog and managing your photos. And it goes all the way through syncing Lightroom Classic with Lightroom and working with your mobile phone in Lightroom Classic. So I'm super excited about that. If you have LinkedIn accounts, and you see my post, you can watch it for free. I think you get like 24 hours or something to do that. So, yeah, I just want to share that. I'm sure you're using Lightroom, right? Like,
Yeah.
some of you are, for sure.
For sure. Yes.
And those of you that aren't, you're the perfect ones for my course, because it's really taking you, holding your hand all the way through the process of it.
Theresa gave a great talk to our Slow Camera Club on Lightroom the last month.
They're all running together, Chuck, but
Yeah,
I
I
think
know.
it was a few months ago now.
Maybe a few months ago, but it was really good. And if you get a chance, you should definitely check out her class on LinkedIn.
I have several Lightroom courses. I have one that I recorded in January that's called Social Sharing, and it's all about how you can create galleries. A lot of people they're not utilizing Lightroom the way that you could. I mean, you're paying for a cloud service. Even if you're using Lightroom Classic, you have access to all those cloud services. So that course is really focused on that, how you can share galleries and images, and it covers all the different versions of Lightroom for that. So that's a shorter, smaller course. I have other Lightroom courses, but the big one is the one that got published today. So I'm excited by that.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. I recorded it from home too. So it was, it was challenging, to say the least, because when you go to Carpinteria, it's a beautiful, beautiful location, right? And you sit in a studio, very professional sound booth, and you have a producer listening and going, yeah, that was great. Or, you better take that, say that sentence again. It wasn't very clear, right? So, like, you've got somebody following you, but you don't have that when you're at home. You just got to do it and trust you're doing a good job with it. So it was a good experience.
Wow.
Thanks for letting us know that. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about how that was done till I got a chance to do it myself, and it's impressive. Their studios and their setups very impressive, very professional.
So I want to look up your new course. What is the name of the new course?
It's called Lightroom Classic Essential Training.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Okay, are we ready to start judging?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to go through the rules? rules again for me before I start speaking? Just do a review of your grading
Sure.
scale and all of that.
So you'll be judged. So there's two categories. There are color images, and then there will be a separate category mono. And the theme tonight is night shots. And you'll have 3 different things that you judge on. Each one you will give, each of those 3 has 7 points. So those 3 are, help me out here, somebody tell me the 3 things. They are the
Position.
Composition, technique,
position,
and impact.
Technique and
impact.
impact. Hmm.
Right.
I don't have to break
you-
it down. I can just give a total score.
Yes.
Yes.
The
Yes.
total is perfect.
Yeah.
Total score, but we would really like to have some feedback about
Sure.
good about this image
That's
and what.
that's the best part, really. I always tell clubs that, you know, competitions are good for everybody, but it's really the critique that matters. It's not the score. So I prefer doing critique than actually, you know, saying this is good, this is bad. But I will provide as much feedback as I can.
Okay, great.
Pretty much it's basically
Don't worry
the,
about a tie. We'll have you break any ties, so score them as you think they should be scored, and we'll come back, round back if there's any ties.
Okay. Chuck?
Yeah,
Would you
don't-
like to do color or black and white?
We're going to do color first.
I'll do color.
You want to do color this time?
Yeah. I'll be
It's the
color.
longest
I'd
one.
ask everybody to mute themselves and just listen to Theresa.
Chuck had something he was going to say. He got cut off.
yeah, I was just going to say that, basically we're going to run through each image just so you see them all.
Oh, great.
Then you'll go back, you'll give your critique and give the score. And then at the end, if there's any ties, you'll break the ties for first, second, and third, and possibly an honorable mention. And then at that point, they'll be all told who did the shots.
Okay.
There won't be a cutoff like the San Luis Obispo Club where you score 8 or above to have your name.
Right. Thank you, Chuck.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
And
Bridge. We love Bridge.
come on. Okay. We're doing a run through.
Okay.
Okay, this is the first of 17 images, excuse me.
Before I start, do you know if in WebEx there's a way to annotate? I like to critique by drawing circles around things if I can. Let me
Yeah,
see.
looks like I forgot to turn it on. Hold on, I can go out.
It's like
And
having a laser pointer. Say,
Huh.
over here.
it's not on. I wonder why. Hmm. Supposed to be on.
Well, I'll just have to be very descriptive.
Yeah, it's not on for some reason. Sorry about that. There it is. It's on the. You should be on the left side of your screen now.
Oh, I see it. Okay. All right. My favorite part of this image is the white part of the firework and how they look like dashed or dotted lines, like Morse code or something. And then I like how it's contrasted against the red lines that are, long and softer. The challenge with this is, well, fireworks are very challenging to capture because they're so bright and they're done at the darkest part of the night, or when it's really dark. So I think it requires using a tripod to do it professionally, and I'm not really sure that this image was captured with a tripod because we can see. Let's see if I get my annotation here.
Theresa, I want to interrupt for a moment. For the rest of the pictures, Penny will just name what the title is first before you start.
Oh, okay. Penny, want to tell me the title? She's muted.
Socially distanced fourth.
Yes, we're not hearing you, Penny. I'll go ahead and do the color then.
You haven't had the run through.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did the run through.
Yeah.
Socially distanced fourth. Yeah.
So if you look at the center of the firework, it's not round, it's rectangular because of camera movement, not so the blur is not because of the long exposure of the firework. It could be that it exploded that way, but it feels like there's a camera shake to it. So the whole image feels soft. So I'm guessing that it was handheld, which is really challenging. I see that there is a tree in the foreground over here. Honestly, I didn't see that tree at first. So I don't know that it's adding anything to the scene. Now, what might be really nice is if the tree was part of the scene and there was a hint of it so that when I discovered it, like I like discovering things in images after I've looked at the whole thing. And then there's a discovery like, wow, there's a tree there. That's really interesting. But there really isn't anything interesting about the tree. I can't see anything in it. It's completely black. So I think it either shouldn't be there or we should be able to see something that's going on. So let's see. All of that, I'd say 17 on this image. How do I take my annotation off? Oh, it just goes off?
I took it off.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so next.
Feel the power. 3.
This is a really, really stunning image. Absolutely gorgeous. I love that the where am I totally the galaxy here. I'm totally having a brain fart.
Milky Way.
The Milky Way. That it's over the tree. I mean, there had to have been some planning to do this, right? The right time to know where it's going to be, to know what's going to be in the foreground. I'm assuming this is a planet, but I'm not sure, but it's okay. I love it. I think it's perfectly positioned. The exposure is just awesome. I love that the foreground down here is just a silhouette. It really frames the Milky Way, but we don't need to see into it. We don't need to see the details. It gives it a base. all the stars that we can see. This one was clearly shot with a tripod, right? It's got the right exposure. It wasn't, from what I know of shooting stars and star trails and Milky Ways, if it's longer than 30-second exposure, you're going to start getting some blur from the stars. So this was a shorter exposure, just extremely well done. I've never captured an image like this. I would love to have something like this in my portfolio. I love the little bit of red from, I guess that's probably the town. There's probably, it could be sunset, but it could be city lights too. But either way, it doesn't matter. It's beautiful. I love the color tones. I love all the detail that I can see in here. So I'm going to give this one a perfect score, really. I can't find anything that I would find fault with. So that's 21, right?
21, yes. Jupiter, Milky Way, and Perseid meteors.
So I think it's a little bit unfortunate for the photographer of this image to have it follow right after the previous one. So I have a little bit of empathy for you, whoever you are, for that. But I think it's also a really good learning opportunity that some types of photography, the equipment that we use really matters. Now, I am a huge mobile phone photography fan. I do a lot of teaching with it. I'm really passionate about it. I probably shoot more with my phone than anything else now, but I wouldn't shoot the Milky Way with it. I might, but I wouldn't put it in a competition. Let's just say that. I don't know this was captured with the phone, but it has all the telltale signs of being captured with a mobile device because it's soft. We can just see into the pixels. We can see in the road here that it's just kind of breaking up. The stars aren't nice and sharp. We can't see the detail into the Milky Way. I love the scene. I love the little bit of glow from the city lights here. I love let's talk about composition here. Okay, I'm waiting for your approval so that I could annotate.
Yes.
Okay. So what I really like about the composition here is I love this line going in here. Love that the Milky Way is coming down this way. And then we have a tree, kind of where they're converging. So that's a really strong compositional element. So composition, this is probably be nicer if it wasn't such a small little piece right next to the edge of the frame. So you always, when you're looking at the overall composition, we call that like minding the frame, or going all the way around the borders, doing a border check. So I think compositionally this might be nicer actually if it came out to here, if we saw this whole bend, right? Now, I don't know what was out there that got cropped out. Maybe it was intentional. Maybe there was a car there or something. I don't know. But compositionally, this would be nicer if we had more of that bend. So I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it a 17. The strongest part of this is the composition.
Neowise comet over Huasna.
This one may have been captured. I don't know that it was captured with a phone, but it feels like it might have been cropped into from a larger image. It just doesn't have that same sharp clarity that first one we looked at. Again, it's almost kind of unfair that image came in front of these two. The colors in this are really beautiful. I like the silhouette of the tree a lot. I like that the comet is headed towards the tree. I like this compositional. Let's see. Why do I have to ask for it every time? I guess that's just the way WebEx works. So I just request that again. So I like this line that comes around here, right? Like there's almost like this curve that that is converging on the tree, which is really nice for the composition. I wish this was like a little bit stronger, like if this was a little bit darker and this was a little bit brighter. So to accentuate that, it's one thing that I am always coaching my students with in editing is ask yourself what's working and then ask yourself what's not working and then edit for that. So when you see that there's this really nice kind of lines going through here, you can, you could put a radial gradient in there, just brighten that up just a little bit to accentuate what's already there. So there's some problems with the processing. I don't know if it's a lens flare. There's something that's kind of pink over here. And then if we look at the comet, there's almost a hard edge where it goes right. I don't know if you guys can see. Maybe I'll draw these lines and then you can clear my annotations and then you can take a look again right at those lines that I drew. So can you clear what I annotated? Do I have a way to do that? Okay. So hopefully you can see what I'm seeing. It's likely happened. Well, there's a couple scenarios where this will happen. One could be just taking the highlights slider down too much and then having it just break there. That doesn't necessarily look like what happened here, though. It could be that the color mixer or the HSL slider has made the warm tones darker, and it's snapping where it hits the cool tones, or it could be that it was painted to try and bring some detail in, but then we see the edge of the brush. So maybe none of that happened. And if it just was captured that way, then edit to get rid of it, right? Because it doesn't look natural. I do like the silhouette of the tree. I like the tones of this. I'm going to give it an 18.
Neowise over Morro Bay.
This is a really stunning image. I love that it's recognizable, right? Like I've only been there once. I know this is close to where you guys live. But I've seen a lot of pictures of Morro Bay, but I haven't seen this picture before. And so that's something that always elevates an image for me when it's something familiar that gets captured all the time, right? But when you see something that's a little bit more unique, having that comet go through there, that doesn't happen. I don't know how many decades or since that we've had that opportunity. So to be able to capture that in this scene is really, really nice. I love that there is a figure standing on the dock here because I didn't see that figure there right away. And I love that discovery. It feels like a very still, quiet night. And then, there's a person standing there and that person's moved a little bit. I guess they're fishing. Looks like there's a fishing pole on there. So there's a couple problems with it in that maybe let's say there is some room for improvement. The most noticeable thing to me right away is it doesn't have a black. So it's too bright. But it's not that it's too bright overall, it's that the blacks aren't black enough. And this is night photography. Something surely was black in that scene. And if you just take the blacks slider in either ACR or Lightroom, the blacks, not the shadows, but the blacks, and you move that to the left, turn your clipping warnings on when you do this, move it to the left until you see those blue highlight warnings telling you you've hit black. That will punch this image up so much. It will become so much stronger. The colors will become richer. The contrast will become stronger. And if you intend on printing this, that's really, really critical because if you don't have a black in your image, your print's going to look flat. And then the last thing is, you probably don't need to draw it. You can see it right behind the figure. It where the white is reflecting in the water here. It's kind of distracting, right? Like it's not pure white because of the corrections that have been done to try and get as much detail out of that. So it starts looking like it's just got this like flat gray tint. And we know that, you know, that's not what light looks like when it reflects on water. So I would just take it out. You know, I don't think that you would want to crop that out of there because the figure is really interesting, but just, you know, we don't. It wouldn't look weird if you cloned it out to the point where we were only seeing as much white in the water as we're seeing from the light above. I don't think that anybody would be staring at it long enough to figure out, well, the light should be reflecting bigger than that. So, but yeah, really beautiful image. I'm going to give this a 19, but if you had fixed those two things, it likely would be a 21. Oh, wait. There's one other thing. There's a vignette around it. If you look in the upper left-hand corner and the upper right-hand corner, I am a big fan of putting very subtle vignettes on every image. It helps bring the viewer's eye into the scene, but it shouldn't be noticeable. So in this case, it's noticeable in the corners. So either pull it in closer. Well, I would pull it in closer to the center by adjusting the center point of the edge vignette and soften it up, feather it more, tone it down just a little bit so that it's there and you don't actually notice it until you toggle it on and off. You shouldn't just be able to see it when you first look at the image. But I'm not changing my score because I just thought that was worth pointing out.
Neowise comment.
I love the comet going through the center of the scene and being framed by the trees on both sides. It has this sense of having passed overhead, right? Like that it traveled over us and now it's headed into the distance. So the scene is really, really nice. Again, I think maybe this was captured with the wrong equipment or a camera that doesn't do really well at high ISO, which I have cameras like that, so I understand that challenge. We see all kinds of pixels in the foreground. And in that case, it would probably be better to just take that to black. Just let it be the silhouette because there really isn't any detail. There's nothing in those trees, at least in the way I'm seeing it right here. There really isn't anything that I find interesting. All of the interest is the comet and the headed away. In the lower left, there's something slightly out of focus that is distracting. So I think it needs a black. I mean, maybe a lot black. I don't know that there's anything in this image that's actually black if you turn your clipping warnings on and take a look at it. Also, it doesn't have the same kind of pretty colors that some of the other ones we looked at did. It has a very yellow it's just kind of yellowish warm. One of the most exciting things about shooting night photography for me is that white balance is really subjective. Like you can just, you can go in any direction you want and completely change the mood. When you're shooting something in daylight, we all know what the colors are supposed to be. So I would recommend playing around with the white balance on this and try and pull it away from that yellow green tone into something that's a little bit more pleasing. So I'll give this one kind of between a 17 and an 18. I'll give it a 17.
Port San Luis Pier.
This is a really nice image. I really like this. I love the starburst of the light to the right of the sport fishing sign on the building there. I love the way sport fishing is lit up and that's really the focal point, right? It's compositionally, all of the lines are drawn there. And then it's interesting. And that really works. You have it in sort of the rule of thirds and you have the leading line of the pier, the beautiful reflection in the water below it. But the building and the sign are really interesting. We can see a lot of detail in there. I'm kind of wishing that somebody was on the pier in this space over here to the right, in the just to the right of the "Do Not Feed the Birds" sign. It's maybe somebody just leaning against the pier, contemplating the meaning of life or something. It has that kind of quiet stillness to it that I know I want there to be a figure in there. It's a long exposure, a fairly long exposure, because the water's pretty soft. So it would be really nice if that figure that I'm imagining didn't move. So they were like tack sharp, perfectly still, and we would know that they were in a very still place for a period of time, because we know by how soft the water is that it was a long exposure. So I think that would make there would be more of a story here, right? With somebody in the image like that. I like the colors. I like that I can see details everywhere, even underneath the pier and in the rocks in the foreground. I was thinking maybe it was tilted a little bit because of the pole in the foreground, but the pole may not be bolted on vertical, because if we look at the building, the sport fishing building, that looks like it's squared up good. So this is really nice. I'm going to give this one a 20.
Let's see. Golden Canyon?
No.
That's
Nope.
but
That
yeah,
doesn't sound right.
yeah, I know, that's why I hesitated. But that's what my list says.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's out of sequence. It's San Luis Night.
San Luis Night. Okay, so all right. San Luis Night.
I like the bike sitting there. I think that it makes it more interesting that somebody's been there. Maybe they're in one of the restaurants or something and they left their bike locked up. I see somebody walking across the street too. It's a nice capture of a downtown area that has interesting architecture, interesting sculpture, and it makes me want to visit it. Looks like a nice place. There's some issues with the really brightest lights in the scene, and this is the real challenge of shooting night scenes that have bright lights, right? Because the dynamic range is extreme, because that street light and the clock across the street are extremely bright light, but the rest of the scene is pretty dim. So the only way to really professionally capture a scene like this is to do it with HDR. And I know HDR was like super popular 5 or 6 or 10 years ago, and it's kind of out of vogue now. But the truth is that professional architectural photographers that are capturing scenes like this, they're using HDR. They're so good at it that you don't look at it and go, wow, that's HDR. Lightroom actually does a really phenomenal job of merging brackets. So if you were to shoot this scene, and I'm assuming this is on a tripod, it feels like it's nice and sharp and there's no camera shake. You could capture at least 3 brackets, maybe 5. The important thing is to capture the light, the clock in the back. We can't see the clock because it's completely blown out. Have an exposure that can capture that clock on one end of your exposures. And then on the other end, you want to make sure that you can capture the shadows in the tree over here to the left. And then Lightroom can merge all of those together. And then you have a raw DNG file that you could then do your Lightroom edits on. And at that point, if you move the highlight slider down to get the detail in the clock, you would see the hands of that clock. And then up here in the JP Andrews sign, it almost feels like where the light is hitting that sign, that it is you can almost see it snapping. It's almost like the white is darker than the yellow because of the exposure move to try and recover those details. So if you did that with HDR, you would be able to hold all of that. So there's limitations to how you can capture the scene with the equipment you have and the setup you have. I love the sculpture. I love the red reflection on it. I think honestly, if I was shooting this scene, that I might have made that my whole subject, you know, just take pictures of that reflection with a hint of the town behind it. The bricks of the building are really interesting. Maybe if you were off to the right, shooting at that red reflection with some of that red brick in the background, that could be really, really interesting. That's not the picture we have here, though, so that's probably not fair for me to be saying all of that. I just like the scene. I like that sculpture. I talked earlier about minding the frame or doing your border check. This is a really good example in the upper left-hand corner here. If you could give me my approval. So this is really distracting when you do this. When you have something that is a really bright light and you stick it right in the corner of the frame, that's gonna draw your viewer's eye out the scene, and that's not what you want to do. So you probably didn't want to crop it because this trees here is interesting, and the blue in the window frame is interesting. But this would be a case where I would just clone it out. Wouldn't want that in there. And then also when you're shooting architecture, which this is architecture, right? It's got buildings in it. You should try and straighten your vertical lines. So this line, I can't draw a straight line with this, but this line is leaning into the right. This one's leaning slightly to the right. This one's really leaning to the right. So you can use your geometric panel in Lightroom to straighten all of those up. Have them standing straight up. And the whole composition will be a lot stronger when you do that. So I really like the scene. I like the story. I like the colors. I think that with a single exposure, the exposure is probably as good as you're going to get with this. And so those are positives. So I'm going to give this an 18.
Okay, I assume this one is Golden Canyon?
Yes.
Okay.
This one has a really interesting story. I really like that. I like the setting. I like that we see the photographers. I like that I have an idea of what they're seeing, and I want to be standing right there where they are and capture what's happening with the formations of the rock. I love that the white balance of the rock or cliff or whatever's in front of them is warm, while they're in a very balanced white balance because there's lights coming off of, I don't know if a flash went off or I don't know. It's kind of a mystery, but I like that. So there's kind of it's almost diagonally divided in half, warm, cool. So there's kind of a yin yang thing happening here that I really like. Those are the things that I really like. Like I would love to shoot abstracts of that scene in front of them. So when I look at this picture, I am like, I love this scene. I would have all those things that I said I liked. I would really push the editing on. Like that rock is gritty, right? There's all kinds of fabulous gritty texture in it. I want to see that. I feel like the image feels soft to me, and it shouldn't be soft because the really interesting parts of it aren't soft. They're really, really textural. There is some like pinks and cool tones in the wall on the right. That could be fabulous if you could pull that out of that scene. Then you would have a warm orange colors on the left, and then the pink and pale blues on the right. You know, push the things in it that are working really well. And start by making sure you have black. The figure that's standing right in front of the tripod that's not moving. I also really love that. One figure is very still, the other one's moved. I think that's a female. She should be black, silhouette. Make sure it's black. Use your clipping warning and make sure that you have black there. Just that one move will add that kind of textural quality, but I would add clarity, maybe texture, more contrast, play with selective color edits to pull the pinks out of this, just pump this. I just feel like this image needs to be just way pumped up, and then it could be really stunning. So I'm going to give it an 18. See, I don't really like the grading part. I love talking about the images. That's what's fun.
Panamint Playa.
What an amazing place. Wow, I wish I could be standing there. What is just an amazing moment to be, first of all, just to be on the playa, but then to be there with the scene that you have. I mean, it's incredible. You're very fortunate to have whoever you are. I'm quite jealous. So let's talk about the composition of this, because I love the scene. I love the colors in the sky. I love that the foreground is kind of dystopian, it's kind of like old brown paper or something. There's this contrast between the two that really works. And I love this single rock, but I wish that rock was, let me draw it. If you could give me that.
Okay.
Okay. So what I do like is that the rock doesn't touch the horizon line there, because if it did, we wouldn't see the top of the rock, right? So what I wish is the rock was here. Don't touch keep that edge up there, but get in on that rock so that it really fills that space. And then you have a real play happening between the comet and the rock. As it stands right now, this area down here isn't really adding anything to the scene. So everything down here, there isn't anything more interesting than what's happening up here. We're not seeing any greater detail or, it's just not really making anything stronger. So if you filled that whole area with that rock, the whole composition would be much stronger. I also see it looks like a snow-capped mountain back here. I wish I could see that better. So I don't know if that's in your image. If you open the shadows up, I don't know if, we can see just a little hint of what's going on in those areas, but it would be really nice if we could see that a little better. So there's something really mysterious feeling about this, though, and I think it's the color tones. I like that. So I'm going to give this one a 19.
Coffin Cabin.
Where's the coffin? I guess the cabin's name, Coffin. This is a really beautiful image. It's interesting that it feels like daylight. It feels a little bit like daylight, right? Because we can see all the details everywhere, even in the rocks in the foreground. But we can also see into the window, details into the top floor of the cabin. We can see the lights on across the lake. So we know, and we can see the stars in the sky. So we know that it's after sundown. So it's kind of curious because maybe it's moonlight or something. It just feels like a very bright evening. I kind of like the mystery of that, though. I thought this is kind of interesting, too. There's a light source coming off the right-hand side because you can see that tree lit up there, and you can see the shadow. I think it's the shadow of this tree on the side of the cabin. But I don't think it's that light source that's lighting, it's definitely not lighting the background. I think that I might actually tone down the sky or darken down the sky just a little bit so those stars really pop out of there. So there's a little bit more contrast with, compositionally, the story is all in the building, right? that's the title. It's the cabin. So the sky is kind of competing with it because it's in the same tonal range. So I think if just the sky was just maybe a step darker, that cabin would really pop out even more. It's a really beautiful image though, and really well done. So I'm going to give it a 20.
Dining out.
Kind of feel like I'm sitting there, but I think that possibly by the height of the camera, I'm thinking the camera was sitting on a table because you didn't have a tripod, possibly. So we're looking like the table in the center. We can't see the top plane of the table, and we can't really see under it either. So that's kind of interesting. I like the environment and feeling like I'm in it, and I like the lights and the trees. I like being able to see what's going on inside. There's a story happening with people sitting out here. Like, looks like it's a little cool. Everybody's got jackets on. And then there's a whole other story and scene happening inside, which makes me wonder if this might tell a stronger story or be more interesting if you got closer to the scene on the left. If you look at the tree in the foreground, it's really dividing the whole composition, right? And then we have an empty chair and an empty table that we're seeing underneath of it. If you can just visually do it by putting your hand up, if you just cropped all of that out, maybe even made this a vertical composition, I think the story becomes stronger because everything that's really interesting to look at is in the left 2/3 of the frame. There's also an exposure problem that's very similar to the street scene, and that there's an extremely wide dynamic range, which is very hard to capture. So the light of the Firestone, I think is what that says, grill maybe, is completely blown out, right? So we can't read it. So this is another scene that's very, very challenging to capture. You could get that entire dynamic range if you bracketed it, but then your people are moving, so that becomes challenging. Yeah, I'm going to give this an 18.
Milky Way over Butte Arch.
This is a really beautiful scene. I love seeing the rocks in the foreground contrasted with the Milky Way. Compositionally, it's really nice. There's just enough of the rocks. It's not the main story, and it's not filling half of the frame. It's only filling a third of it, which is really well done. It feels it's missing black. So we've seen that in a few images tonight, and I think hopefully you can see how much more impact the night images that have actual black in the image feel. So I'm wondering if you took this image and you turned your clipping warning on and you took your black slider and you just moved it down until you had absolute black in all the cracks of these rocks. So they hit black. I think that if you did that, it would really punch up the feel of the Milky Way too, and you would see more detail in it. You would have more contrast. The stars would pop out better. Really, that's the story, right? That's what we want to see. There's a bush right in the center that's a little bit distracting. So here, this is a little bit distracting. Now, if you darkened it down, then you probably wouldn't have to clone it out, right? Even putting an edge vignette around this, take the blacks down, hit the black, get a nice, strong, rich contrast, and then add a very gradual edge vignette that darkens this whole area around here. And then that bush would just kind of disappear in there. So I'm just kind of drawing how far I imagine that edge vignette coming in. Everything outside of the frame that I just drew, if you lost that information in the image, would you feel like you lost anything really important? I think that's a question to ask yourself. And when I'm looking at this compositionally, I wouldn't want to crop that out because I think that it adds to the entire composition. But if it was just kind of dark and pushed back into the background, so I don't really spend any time looking in that area, I don't think you lose anything. There's nothing there that's really adding to the interest of the image. So I really wish this one had better contrast. I wish it had those things. It would get a much higher score. I'm going to give it a 19.
Moonbows in Yosemite Falls.
This one is, it's just amazing. Like, it makes me wonder what time of night this was. Feels like it's the middle of the night. 2 waterfalls, 2 rainbows. I wish we could see more of the rainbow below, but maybe that's not even possible from the vantage point. You know, you might need a drone to get up there to see it. So the story of this is really incredible. Just the place and being there and seeing that. It has kind of the opposite problem of the last image in that it does have black, but I think it's gone. I think it's crushed. I think there's too much black. And if you open the shadow slider, I bet there's some detail in the brush or the trees that are on the side of the rock. And it might be interesting because it would add textural detail to this if you open that up a little bit. And the something about the color of the sky feels not natural to me. So it's almost a neon blue. I'm thinking that if you went into the HSL or color mixer and took the blues and just darkened it down. So I'm not sure what time of night this was taken. So it's kind of in that transitional period. I can't say if the sky should be darker than the foreground or the other way around, but I know that until the sun is completely around the other bend of the earth, the sky is going to be lighter than the foreground, minus a storm, right? Super black clouds, minus that. The sky is always lighter than your foreground. But at the point where the sun is no longer in the scene, and if you have no city lights in the distance, the sky is going to be darker than the foreground. And we have a really interesting phenomenon here where the color's weird, and I think the sky tonally is lighter than the foreground. So I think just darkening the sky down would really help that. And the interest is really all in that foreground, right? The waterfalls, the rainbows, and all the texture in there. So I'm going to give this one a 19 as well.
Morro Bay Christmas.
Fantastic water reflections. That's the best part of this image is the reflections in the water. It feels like it's leaning a little bit to the left. I don't have grid lines to pull out and put on there, but what you want to do is you can't go by the boat mast, right? Because the boats can rock, but there's a building with some framed windows right in the center of your picture. Those vertical frames should be perfectly perpendicular, and then you'll know that the image is level. Compositionally, I don't think that anything above the lighted area is adding really anything to the image, because for me, the story is the reflections. It's not really even the boats. It's the reflections that are cast by them. So I think that whole top probably can be cropped off. It's a little bit soft too. This may be another situation of not having a tripod or not having a camera that allows you to shoot at a high enough ISO to capture it really sharp. So that's challenging. And we also have the issue of the really, really high dynamic range. I don't know what this white thing is in the middle of the boat. Well, let's draw that so we can see that. So I don't know what this is. Now, I thought maybe it was a light, but now I'm looking at it again and I'm thinking maybe it's a person with a white jacket on. It's unfortunate that it's there because it's distracting. This is distracting here as well. And then going around the frame, going back to that, check your borders. When you have bright lights like this right along the edge, you're better off just cropping that out. Keep all those reflections in the center of your frame. Darken down the edges so it keeps our eye in the center. Because this image doesn't feel like it's in focus or there's camera movement or something, that's something that you just can't fix. There's a whole lot of things you can fix, but if it's not in focus, it's not in focus. So I'm going to give this a 17 because of that issue.
San Ramon Moonrise.
Somebody got their it's distracting. Somebody's got their microphone on. I'm hearing. Is it possible to mute everybody but me and that
And the
was
dog.
perfect timing. The dog agrees.
Yeah. Barking dogs. That's what we need more of.
I love this image. It feels like a different place and time. Probably because of the church and the architecture of the church, and that the fence in the foreground is old and wooden, and I can't really place the period of time that it's captured in, except for if I look really close, I can see like a red sign back here. So, and I see a trash can. So, if you can give me presenter or annotation tools on this. So let me just preface this by saying, I think this image is really beautiful. The way the lights, the rays of the light are coming over the tree, the light in the tree to the right, and they're framing the church. The church is really well exposed. We can see all sides of it. The sky is beautiful. We see a few stars. It's gorgeous. It's not done though. And so some images you go, yeah, it's got those problems, but whatever, it's not worth it. I think this image is worth it. If this belongs to you, invest a couple hours of your time to really, really make this image beautiful, because it can be. So some things that I would do. There is a orange sign back here, like a street, warning sign or something. I would take that out. Now the white sign looks like an old-fashioned wooden sign that probably is a plaque that talks about the church. So that belongs in this scene. There's also, I think, a trash can here. I hate trash cans in my pictures. I take them out. Like in my, rose-colored world, they don't exist. So take those two things out. And then again, this needs a black. It needs a punch. Make sure with your clipping warnings on that's something black. Maybe even take the highlight slider down a little bit to pull even more detail in, because this is gorgeous. I think there's probably enough detail in this image. If you move your highlights down, you're going to start really seeing what's happening back there. And that's going to make the rays coming off that even stronger. And then finally, there's some dust spots up in here. Now, I'm being very specifically maybe critical. I don't want to be, it's not critical. I'm giving it a very detailed critique because I love this image and I'd like to see all of that work done to it. I love that there is a pathway that goes up in here and we can see the light. You know, I love how that happens. So if there's any way to pull any of that detail out and brighten that up a little bit more to invite our eye to go down that road and explore what's back in there, see what you can discover back in there as well. Okay. I still really love this image, so I'm going to give it a 20.
Sensorial lights.
Yeah, I guess this is up your guys' way someplace, right? I've seen some pictures of it. I love the composition of this. I love the crisscross composition. I love that there is people out there taking pictures and enjoying the scene. But they're not the story. I mean, it's the whole environment. It's about the installation, but that people are out there enjoying it, I think really adds to that. I know from what I've been told, this is a pretty challenging place to photograph because you're not allowed to have tripods, right? So that really limits it. And also, I don't think there's really any high vantage point. It's kind of a rolling hill. So unless you're like 7 feet tall, it's kind of hard to shoot down on the lights. So this is really nice that we can see the lights, the colored lights in the foreground and then way into the background. But then when you get all the way back there, there's some glowing figure. Like, what is that? I mean, that'd be really easy to take out. And I don't, unless that's really important to you, if there's a story behind that, I don't know what it is. So I find that distracting. And I also find the cars that are to the right of that distracting as well. You know, that would be a little bit harder to take out. But it's a really beautiful scene. It feels a little bit soft. I'm wondering if that might just be the resolution. Has this like equal softness across it? That could be a resolution issue, not a focus issue. It's hard to tell. So I'll give this a 19 as well.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, we have a tie between number 7.
For second place, right?
We're going to pick a second, third, and honorable mention from the 3 ties. So that would be 7, 11, and 16. It'd be, let's see, it's
I don't think.
Port San Luis Pier,
Yeah.
Coffin Cabin, and San Ramon Moonrise.
I don't think
Not
the
the
fireworks didn't
fireworks
belong in
doesn't-
us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fireworks does not belong there.
It's just the other 3 that we need to pick a second, a third, and an honorable mention.
Okay. So the Coffin Cabin is second. And then can I look at those next 2, the pier and the, look at those side by side.
Pier and San Ramon.
The last one that I was looking at, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So San Ramon, third, and the pier, honorable mention.
Okay, we're ready. Okay, Socially Distanced Fourth by Frank Trump. Feel the Power, our first place by Jeannie Sparks.
Congratulations, Jeannie. Fabulous image.
Oh, yeah.
Jupiter, Milky Way, and Perseid Meteors by Cheryl Decker. Neowise Comet over Huasna by Gregory Doudna. Neowise over Morro Bay by Elaine Calvert.
It's a nice image, too.
Beautiful.
Neowise Comet by Larry Decker.
I like that.
Port San Luis Pier, honorable mention by Chuck Ubley.
San Luis Night.
San Luis Night by Tony Martindale. Golden Canyon by Penny Powell. Panamint Playa by Ed Powell.
Nice shot, Ed.
Thank you, ma'am.
Coffin Cabin by Chuck Ubley, and second place. Dining Out by Tony Martindale. Milky Way over Boot Arch by Elaine Calvert. Moonbows in Yosemite Falls by Gregory Doudna.
Nice shot, Greg.
Thank you. Oops.
Morro Bay Christmas by Frank Trump. San Ramon Moonrise by Larry Decker, and third place.
Nice shot.
Sensorial Lights by Rosie Brancasio.
Hot diggity.
How long are those lights going to be installed? It's not a permanent thing, is it?
They're ending, I think, sometime this year or the very beginning of next year. There is a deadline for them. You'd have to check online.
I'd love to get up there to see that.
I'd like to make a comment on Panamint Playa. The comments that you made, Theresa, I also considered with the rock and having it being lower or getting closer so that it was larger. And I considered that for the same reasons you talked about. But the problem I found when doing it was that the rock seemed to get too much dominance. And I didn't like the result.
And then the comet felt too small and
Yeah. I tried those changes that you talked about. Unless
you could fix that in Photoshop. You could just make the comet bigger.
Yeah, the problem it seemed like the
It'd be beyond me to do.
Yeah. Ed, there's content aware move and then scaling. So
Yeah. I'm even making great pictures. I don't care how you get there.
Yeah, if it looks good, it is good. It doesn't matter how you get there.
Exactly. We're not journalists. I mean, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
We're creating art.
And since we're making comments, the Morro Bay Christmas by Frank, that's one of the best I've ever seen of the light parade that goes on at Christmas time there. So congrats to Frank.
Yeah, that was a nice shot. The person in the white coat, I think, was a snowman on the.
I couldn't tell what it was. It'd be nice that you could tell. It'd be great if you'd be able to tell what it was.
That totally makes sense.
I love those reflections. They're really incredible.
On my two images, the ones where there was no true black, the Morro Bay and the
that Morro Bay image is so gorgeous.
Well, but what I was going to say is I probably need to recalibrate my monitor because on my before I submitted them, I don't know if it's a resolution thing or what, but they looked a lot different. They're a lot darker, and I really didn't like the way they looked tonight. But that's.
So I'll tell you, he shared the images with me. I looked at them before we started tonight, and I opened that image. I opened your Morro Bay image in Camera Raw and took the blacks down. I was like, oh, that's what this is supposed to look like. So
I tend to favor lighter images, and so
always work with your clipping warning on.
yeah.
Finish with the clipping warning on. Make
And
sure
I
you
never
have one.
added a vignette to that image. I just
It's
that
your
was-
lens.
That
Your
was
lens
an
did that.
oversight that I probably didn't do the lens correction.
Yeah.
But yeah, but very good critiques, very helpful. Thank you.
Theresa,
Mm-hmm.
are you here are you just here for just tonight for the critiquing?
Yeah, I'm just a guest.
Really? I would love to give you a photo to critique. I don't want to be in. I don't want to be in the thing. I just want you to look at it.
Okay. You have. Well, let's get through this and then we.
Oh yeah, I mean maybe later after or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, we ready to proceed?
Yes.
I'm ready. This is just.
Can we take a 2-minute break for the bathroom?
That'd be good.
Yeah, I'll refill my water. Come right back.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but very, very appreciative of all of the comments and the critiquing.
Zucchini bread.
Very nice.
I'm gonna take the cat outside for a bit.
Jim?
Marco, can I ask you
you
one?
still there?
Okay, can I ask you one question?
Me, Marco?
Yes.
Yes. Go ahead.
You are. I'm sorry, but you are from Italy.
Sì, sono italiano, sì.
So I'm sorry, but if you are from Italy, your family name is Franchina. So CH is
correct.
It's not
Correct.
Francina.
I know. In America, everyone says.
Yeah, exactly. Because in America they think CHI is C light.
China.
So
Yeah,
in
it's not
Italy,
K.
in Italy, CH is like the K.
Yeah.
No, sorry, because at the
dove
beginning you
sei?
say, I'm from Milan.
Io abito in Milano per 3 anni per la moda.
Ah, wow.
Sono a photographer.
Ah, wow.
He started fighting with the short stick, Yabo.
C'è tanti italiani qui.
Grazie. And we are all around the world, probably no one in Italy.
Correctly.
Sì, Flavio.
Oh, spicy.
Yeah, Milano is beautiful. I liked Milano when I was there. I liked it very much.
It's one of the capital of the world for the fashion.
Yeah.
Many of the fashion designers are from Milan, Armani, Versace, Truccati.
And Michelangelo lived there.
Is Velo Vigorelli
Yeah.
still in Milano? Velo Vigorelli still there? I guess that's a no.
Was that Penny? Or whoever, I mean.
Velo Vigorelli, is that still around in Milano?
Oh, I don't know. I think Flavio would know him probably.
Whose dog?
That dog is a walking ad for rat poison.
Or a Vietnamese family.
Teresa.
Oh, yes.
My title of the coffin cabin, just to let you know that the original person who built that cabin owned a mortuary and he milled his own wood. So all the exteriors of the logs he used for the outside of the cabin. So that's why we call it the coffin cabin.
Wow.
It freaked me out when I was a kid.
Does anybody live in it now, or is it like Airbnb or something? Somebody live in it full time?
No, you can't live in them full time. It's it's on Forest Service land and
It's
you're
a
not
morgue
allowed.
now.
But somebody's there, and I was going to do some light painting with it, but
What time of night did you shoot that? Because I had a really weird, like.
it was a really bright moon.
Oh.
It was just overly bright. In fact, it was just like, I got all this
Yeah.
detail, and it's just
I mean,
wow.
it's kind of interesting because it feels like like daylight, but then all the lights are on, so you know it's not daylight.
Yeah, it was a full moon right kind of behind me, so it's just lighting up everything.
What's the light source that was hitting the
That was the moon.
Oh my god!
Everything
That was
the
like
moon.
car lights or something.
No,
Wow.
it was all the moon. It was just so bright. It was incredible.
Goofy eye once in a while.
That's awesome. You shot it with a tripod?
Yeah.
Night scenes really require that.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a really crappy photograph to show in the black and white category, so I hope you all appreciate it.
Okay, are we ready to start?
Yep.
It's really bad.
Everybody mute their mics who is not talking.
And you mute you because I have to keep talking.
But I'm not a mic.
Somebody needs to mute Ed. All right. We have 7 monochrome images.
Okay, run through.
Yep. Okay, it's our first image.
This image is amazing.
Moon Rising is the title.
It's just beautiful. I love the composition of it. It feels surreal, right? Like the moon couldn't possibly be that big, which I have no problem with, because it makes a great image. But what's so well done about it is there's just no way the moon was that big, but the reflection on the water matches the size of the moon. So really, really well done to pull that off. The one little thing that I can see is that it feels like on my monitor here that I can see that the black that's above the, I don't know if that's a pier or a pipe or I don't know, something, you know, the area above that is not as black as the blacks below it. So that's the clue to me that the top half of the image might have been one image and the bottom half another image, which is fine. I mean, I think it's fantastic. I love the position of the 3 boats. I love that the reflection does not hit the frame at the bottom. So it allows the eye to go all the way around it. But you need to hit that black in the at the top half. It needs at the very top where you have the white frame around, the black there should be the same black as the black at the bottom. If you look at the key lines at the bottom, the black inside of the frame is the same black as the black outside of the frame. But when you go to the top, it's not. It's like a dark gray. So I really want to give this a perfect score, but I feel because of that I can't. I mean, it's really, really stunning. So it's a 20 and a half, we'll say.
I'll put 20.
Okay.
Rainy evening at Santa Barnaba.
It's so mysterious, right? Is that guy stalking her? She's like, I gotta get out of here. I wish the person behind her wasn't looking down at their phone, because then it would really feel like maybe something sinister is about to happen. But because the person behind her isn't looking at her, it has less of that feeling. I think this is an image that is probably way stronger in black and white than it was in color. So I think we should talk about that too. Some images become something else when you convert them to black and white. I always have a hard time doing that because I love color so much, but I think this absolutely black and white was the right answer for this scene because it gives it that kind of mysterious quality. I love that we have a little bit of a vignette on the left, like I guess all the tables and chairs have been put away from the day or because it was raining. I really love the pillars above that. They're really interesting. The textural detail that's in there. They're balanced with the white, the lights in the windows on the right. The position of the gal, the umbrella definitely helps the composition too. Straight up from the umbrella, if we go above the cafe bar sign, is some lights that are hitting the balcony. And they're kind of unfortunate because it's not really helping. That area of the image being lit up is pulling my eye up and out of the frame, right? My eye's going up through the umbrella and then into that bright area up there. So I would recommend that. Well, let's do that. Let's draw this. Okay, so the area that I'm talking about is this here, right? It's sitting up towards the top. It's not really adding anything to the story. The story is here. You know, this is what's really interesting. And then we have that. This is our story, our subject. Then we have it framed by something really interesting over here and something really interesting over here. All of that's working great. This section up here is distracting. You're not going to be able to clone it out and you can't make it black, but you could just darken this entire section by taking a graduated filter and dragging it down and then erasing from the graduated filter over here so that it stays bright. So basically I'm talking about darkening this triangle down, just taking the tones down so that it keeps your viewer's eye in the scene down here below. Really nice scene though. I'm going to give this one a 20 as well.
Vatican I.
How awesome it must have been to be there at night. You know, you don't have a million people. I was there a couple summers ago and they had altar servers from around the world converging for a convention. And oh my God, it was crazy. So I love the details in the building. I think that the exposure on the lights is really nice. You're not trying to tone it down so far that it goes gray. You know, they're just white and that's fine. That's not distracting at all. I love all the textural detail that we can see in the front of the building. It is crooked though, right? It's leaning to the left. I am not saying that. I don't know what this sculpture pillar is to the right. I should, but I don't know what that's called. But it's okay to me that that's leaning in because you're going to get that when you aim up at a scene and when you shoot with a wide angle. But the center should be more straight. In fact, that whole church should be squared up and straight. And then if this on the right bends in a little bit, that's okay. Also, the very top of the dome is getting lost in the sky. I bet it's there. I bet in your capture there is there's some tonal detail that's in that dome that's a little bit lighter than the sky behind it. So I've talked a lot tonight about making sure you have black. Make sure you have black, right? This image, too much. We have a nice rich black. It creates really nice contrasty details, but we're losing the frame of the dome, and the dome's part of the story, so we don't want to lose that. So I'm going to give this one a 19.
Theresa, that's an obelisk.
An obelisk is, oh, the shape of the, thank you. But
yeah, it's the object on the right sticking straight up. Obelisk. Yeah, obelisk.
Yeah, thank you.
855 North Main.
Yeah, this is a really nice scene. There's a story going on here. I love the brick, the details of the brick. I love the bike parked there, and I love that there's a figure. That's really what makes this for me, is that there is somebody inside of that window. I do wish that I saw the figure better defined, not necessarily the face, but I think it's somebody leaning forward with a hoodie. Maybe, you know, a moment later, if they were sitting up straighter and we really had the shape of the hood and the shoulders, I think I would like that. I love the open sign. I'm not really sure what to think about the car. It's not like you could go move the car, right, to take the picture. You're kind of stuck with what you're stuck with. But I think that the image and the scene would be stronger without the car in the frame. The bike and the door and the two windows, all of that's perfectly composed, but the car kind of breaks that up. And then on the very upper right corner, there's a little bit of a bush coming into it. So again, mind your frame, take those things out, clone it out. I don't think you can crop it because you need the brick that's over there. And make sure that the door is straight up and down. Right, we're shooting, it's a little bit at an angle, but it looks like it's square on the right side, but it feels like the door, maybe the building wasn't built square. Sometimes we run into that too. It just feels like the vertical pillars to the right and the left of the door are a little bit leaning to the right. We'll give it a 19.
Midnight Ride.
Wow. It's just got a beautiful energy and emotion to it. I love that. I wish there was a little more above her hair. I mean, I'm glad that you didn't crop her hair out, but there's a panoramic motion to this, right? The horse and rider are moving through the scene. It feels like it could be wind. It's probably just a long exposure. It might have been panned. And the panoramic crop really adds to that, which I really, really like. But it's not balanced top to bottom. So I like the reflection of the horse, but it would be stronger if you had the same amount of space above her head to give her that whole frame to move through. It's still really nice though. You know, you could content aware crop that. There doesn't have to be anything up there. Maybe that's where your frame ended. Maybe you cropped out the bottom and there actually isn't anything that you captured above her. Otherwise, I can't really imagine why you cropped it out. So here's my suggestion. If you cropped it from the top down, open the crop back up so that it balances the distance on the bottom. If you didn't crop it, then do the content aware crop in Photoshop and just change your canvas size and let it fill it in. It'll do it. It'll do a good job. So I'll give this a 19 as well.
Shadow Man being followed.
Yeah, this is another image that really works in black and white. Like I can't imagine that it would have the same just gritty, spooky kind of feel if it was in color. It almost feels like there might be a texture applied on top of it because where the bright lights are, they're not white. They're kind of a gritty, pixelated grain, but I like that. I think that works really, really well. In the lower left-hand corner, it looks like a piece of trash or a plastic bottle. Definitely take that out of there. I like the tall, narrow crop too, because it feels like we're in a tight enclosed space and it feels voyeuristic, like the photographers in the shade or the shadow there. So I like this a lot too. I'm going to give this a 19 as well.
Add a comma, observation,
Observation.
Observatory.
Observatory, yeah.
Observatory with Polaris reflection.
Oh, now I see the reflection. I was looking and looking, like, where's the reflection? So, what I like about this is that it's very sharp and detailed in the middle, but the frame has like a motion blur on it, and it feels like, you know, the intro to Star Wars, right? It's really like time warp pulling me into it. I'm not really sure what the observatory is adding to this scene. Like, the shape of it's interesting, and it gets a clue as to what it is because of the roundness of it. But we don't see any details in it. It's not even in focus. And the title's about the reflection, which I can see now, but it's in a part of the frame that's not in focus. So if that's the subject, and if that's what you want your viewer to see and take away from the scene, then that should be what's in focus, and it shouldn't be off to the left. It also feels to me like this image doesn't have a black. I guess maybe the triangular shape at the top of the observatory is black, but the sky doesn't feel like it's got black in it. And I think it would have better contrast if it did, or just a little bit darker. So I'm going to give this one an 18.
Okay, we have first, two
Have a
ties
tie
for
for
first
first.
and second, number 1 and 2.
They're both really strong, huh? I'm going to give the moonrise first and the rainy evening second.
Okay, and then we have 4 ties with 19 for third place. And that would be number 3, 4, 5, and 6. So to pick out of those 4, to pick out one.
So can you remove the 2 on the left? I want to see the 2 street scenes. Those are the 2 strongest, I think. I'd like to see those next to each other.
So that would be the 855 North Main.
Yeah. Wow.
And the Shadow Man being followed. There you go.
Well, these are both really nice images. They both have a story, somewhat of a mystery. I like the grittiness of the one on the right. But I'm going to give North Main. I'm gonna pick that one because I think technically it's better exposed, it's better captured, it's better processed. You know, it's winning out over Shadow Man for its technical qualities.
Okay, thank you. We're ready. Okay, this is Moon Rising in first place by Jeannie Sparks.
Yeah.
Yay, Jeannie.
Amazing.
That is just fantastic.
Thank you.
Rainy Evening at Santa Barnaba by Jim McInnes in second place.
Also very splendid. I knew it was
Yeah.
thought, Jim.
It's San Barnaba.
Yes,
Barnaba, yes.
Barnaba.
Barnaba.
I'm sorry, I'm massacring words today.
Very nice, Jim.
Thank you.
So this is the Tican 1.
Vatican.
Did you say? Did you say vegan one?
Vatican.
Oh, we shouldn't laugh. That's not fair.
I messed that one up on purpose.
It's being recorded too.
She ordered Parmesan cheese at the restaurant, like her mother.
Who shot the Vatican?
Okay, this is the Vatican one by Rosie.
The last one was.
Yeah.
And this is 855 North Main in third place by Ed Powell.
That's nice. Sure.
And for the record, I'm not really crazy about it. It wouldn't have got more than a 15 from me.
Really?
He wouldn't have given it more than 15 if he was the judge.
Okay, and this is Midnight Ride by Penny Powell.
Yeah, I like that.
Shadow Man Being Followed by Jim McInnes.
The lurker, the lurking photographer.
That's
Yeah.
That sneaky guy.
And Atacama Observatory with Polaris Reflection by Cheryl Decker.
How'd you
Cool.
get the motion blur on that? Did you capture it that way?
Wait.
You mean this
We
one?
can't hear you.
She's
No, now you can,
muted.
right?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
That was done post-processing with a filter that
Yeah.
causes explosion.
Yeah, I think that was a good call on that image. It really strengthened it.
Well, I must say I was in very much agreement with your scoring and choices, particularly on the black and white stuff, except for my own, which got a third place. I'm not really crazy about that, frankly, but it was there. And so
But it's really well exposed.
yeah, technically it's okay.
Technically,
but
it's really
to me,
good.
There's just something about it that's, for me, is really missing, and I can't quite define it.
It's the person in that. Like maybe if there was two people, there needs to be a little bit more of a story inside the window, and I think the car is distracting as well.
The car is definitely distracting. I didn't like that when I was there shooting it, and the person, I'm okay with the way the person is. I didn't want him to actually become somebody, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I want him to be very anonymous, and he is there, but there's something that it just, I'm really
Go back and do it again.
I'm not real crazy about the photograph.
These
others, oh my gosh, some of those are just absolutely gorgeous, and I'm in full agreement with the rest of your choices.
So
they were really.
I would say the
Jeannie Sparks' photo and Jim McInnes is the first and second. Those two both just knocked me out. It was a really great photograph.
Well, thanks. I wanted to say that I thought that Ed's photo with the single person should have been a single person because it conveys a feeling of loneliness or isolation.
Yeah.
And so I do agree that there would be a second person would make it stronger.
Mm-hmm.
I like that the person was slumped over. It kind of shows, got a hard life, has to ride a bike. And I'm not sure about the car, but in a way it's like contrast between what most people get around in a car
and the bike.
I think that without the car, something might have worked, which is what Theresa said too. It would have worked better, and I might have been happy with it because the same things that you guys are responding to are the same kind of feelings I wanted. I wanted this guy, he's not living the easiest life, and he's by himself, and he's kind of anonymous, and the comments that you guys made, they're consistent with that. But I think the car is what's killing it for me.
I think the car dates it, and if the car wasn't there, you
point.
really couldn't
the
put a year on it.
If you know anything about cycling, of course, those of you who know me know that I was very much involved with it. But the bike dates it.
The bike's
very current. With that
yeah, it's a good bike
in there also. But I agree with you. The car that's an issue, and that may be really what's ruining it for me.
However, in 50 years, that car would be a classic, and it would make a difference.
Well, if I'm still alive, I'll resubmit it.
So, Jeannie, yours was the moonrise?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So how'd you make it?
Well, I took a separate picture of the entire scene, and the moon was up much higher, and I took a telephoto and took a separate picture of the moon so I could get the details, because in the original picture it was just blown out.
Right.
And so I just cropped down to the size I wanted, and then I stuck the moon in there. So when you were thinking about I put two halves together, I didn't. The whole background and the foreground is all part of the same thing. It's only the moon that's stuck in.
Oh, okay. So the sky was lighter than the foreground?
The sky was lighter because of all of the moon was reflecting so much light out.
Light, yeah.
that it was making
I think it feels like two halves because of it being lighter. So maybe if you just darken that sky down just a little bit.
And you think I should darken the hill down too, that the moon's coming up out of?
Yeah, I agree with that, but I
Yeah.
just, the impact on that was just.
Yeah,
I
I didn't even. I didn't even see all of that till I really looked at it for a while. The initial impact was just absolute wow.
Yeah, I didn't notice the grain in the blacks until you commented. Actually, we have a pretty small screen here that we're looking at, but yeah, the impact on that, Jeannie, is just phenomenal. That is really a great shot.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was a little, at first I'm like, I had the moon a lot smaller and I was trying to put it in the same size the original moon was, but just to bring it down, and it wasn't working. I said, heck,
you got Photoshop, right?
I'm going for it, man. Blow that sucker up.
It turned out great. Anything worth doing at all is worth doing in excess.
I'm with you there. Yeah, thanks.
Well,
good competition, guys. Real good.
You guys are a really fun group. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Where do you live,
Theresa,
Theresa?
you were by far one of the best judges we've ever had.
Yeah.
I was
And so
I was going to say,
so much. You were amazing.
I was going to say, can we put you under contract?
Yeah.
I second that.
The critique.
I absolutely wanted to come again.
Yeah, I agree.
I will come back. For sure. You guys are fun. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, your
By the way,
critiques
where
are
do you
very
live?
informative, and I think that's the most important thing is being.
That's what's
is being able to express what you're responding to and reacting to, and then we have the option of agreeing or disagreeing. But at least we know
it's totally subjective.
how people are responding and reacting. That's what's important, and we can take that away.
In Escondido.
Decide whether we want to make changes or not. But we've had some judges that well-meaning, but they just are not able to articulate what they're responding and reacting to, and I thought you did very well with that.
Well, I teach community college. I don't think that was shared in my bio. I teach Photoshop and Illustrator. In my classes, I have ages from maybe 17, 18 years old up to 75 or 80. So it's what's really wonderful about community college. But I feel very strongly that art and design is subjective, but you've got to be able to communicate verbally what it is that you see and that you're trying to communicate in your visual presentation. And if you can sell me on it, I tell my students that, like, I might not get it, but if you can really sell me on what you're trying to say there, then I'm going to give you full credit.
Yeah.
So it's important.
I judged up at the San Luis Obispo Club, and one night I told him, I says, I said, apologies in advance before we started. I says, sometimes I just won't get it. I won't see it a different order. Maybe I would see it immediately, but once in a while, and I apologize. Sometimes I'm just not.
The order does impact it.
But
yeah.
If nobody gets it, that's your fault.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's fun. I love looking at images and I love critiquing, and I love critique. Judging's like, you guys are a great group, but there's always that feeling like, I don't know, somebody's going to disagree with me and be like, oh, she's full of it, but it is just an opinion. So I try and explain.
There's going to be people that disagree or agree, whatever, but if you can articulate what you're responding, reacting to, as I said before, that's what's really important.
Yeah. Well, you guys were fun. I'll come back.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yay.
Thank you for
you again.
bringing me in. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to go eat some dinner now. So let you guys have.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.
Talk to you later.
Thank you.